Hi, I'm Crystal Newman and I love sharing real stories with you. Now, over the last few years, I've been focusing a lot on the things that I'm grateful for. But one of the things I hadn't looked at too much was my education. The fact that I was able to go to school uninterrupted, the fact that I was able to get a bachelor's degree in mass communication, major in broadcasting, which is pretty much the field that I've been working in for more than 20 years. Now, I recently hosted the launch of Fawe Uganda's 25th anniversary celebrations, the start of the celebrations. And I tell you what, I was blown away by the stories from the beneficiaries. You may never have thought about the fact that you have a parent who's paid for your school fees, maybe you had relatives who stepped in, maybe you had a scholarship, but education changes lives. And I have seen it, I have heard it, and you know me. I went out of my way to find some of these stories and share them with you. Now, if you too can help, brilliant. After the COVID-19 pandemic, we have so many young girls who are not in school and it's hard for them to get back to school. Many of them are mothers. You have children who are mothers now and their families, their communities have given up on them. So together we can get so many girls back to school. But here are some of the stories that I was able to find.
My name is Kalende Masi and I study from Busitema University, main campus. I'm currently doing a Bachelor's of Science in Water Resources Engineering. And I'm also from Buyende district in Busoga region, yes. It was cut off from Kamuli district, yeah. Fawe Uganda came into my life after I completed my senior 6. That's 2019. My dad was a border rider and he one time got an accident, so he could not continue the riding anymore. And even the owner of the motorcycle, of course, took it away from him. It's been harder because at some point you find that my father's brothers are into the talk of you could just marry her off and there's something more to earn than waiting on education. Yeah, that's actually, some could probably help me, but they didn't because they believed for a girl, marriage was better than the education. I mean, you'd be receiving cows right away, other than trying to invest into someone's education. Yeah, I think that's what I really thank my dad for trying to. Much as he had failed at the end, he tried. My parents really wanted to do something, but they had no of doing something. Yeah, so I was really frustrated, really frustrated. At some point, I had let education be. Used to make pancakes for sale, 100 shillings, and people would buy. So you'd find a day you're making like 8,000 minus the money you've used. Firewood in the villages is free. Yeah, all you need is a saucepan and oil. They really couldn't afford the tuition. My friends reported and I remained home. For me, it was done. A friend told me about Fawe. Yes, a friend told me. A friend was already in university. So they told me, you're still home, your friends reported, you should try this program. Maybe they could help with your tuition. You never know. Yeah, so that's how I get to know about Fawe. She gives me a contact to try and call. That's how I call the head offices of Fawe. Then they direct me where to pick the forms from. And like, you can try your chance. When we vet you and you fit, then we shall take you in. When you're in the rural schools, there is insufficiency in a lot of things. So you find that you're doing chemistry. I did physics, chemistry, and math. So you find that you're doing chemistry, and I think we did 2 experiments to be able to compete with people that have been in schools and they've done. And the experiments actually did them from a nearby school. They had to join 2 schools for us to do that. Yeah. So you find that I didn't perform as expected because, you know, with the current system, you have to excel in all. Even if you pass the theory papers and you fail the practical, then you're bound to fail. I wanted to do engineering, but of course my results couldn't allow. And then Fawe Uganda was starting a bridging program called the Higher Education Access Program. So yeah, of course you apply for it. We did the application, took us some really long time because they call you via phone. That's after you picking the application form, taking back to the DEO's offices. And then they actually come up to home to make sure that they're not just giving you a scholarship. anyhowly, but they are sure they're taking the right person. They come around, ask even your neighbors if they are sure of your existence in the area. I remember when the Fawe officials came at my place, I didn't even have a phone then. Neither did my dad or my mom, so we're using a neighbor's phone. And then it so happened that on the day they are coming, our neighbor is not around. Yes, so there is no communication. Until later on, he called someone else and tells them, there's someone continuously calling on my phone, they need to see Mercy. So it was all that I think I wasn't supposed to, but it was really God's grace that Fawe picked me up and they put me into the bridging program that was at Nagongera campus, Busitema University. I enrolled into the one-year program. I finished actually as the best student. Oh, wow. So I sometimes come to believe that it's not that I wasn't smart, I just didn't have all I needed to be able to excel. And Fawe gave that to me. Fawe gave me the second chance I needed. So currently, after the one-year program, I joined Busitema still main campus, doing water engineering. I'm a top performer, top 5. We have community-based organizations from our different districts. Fawe picks from the remote districts. We are currently running a program for teenage girls. So we teach them how to do plating, hands-on activities. So much as sometimes we can't provide the tuition, and of course, Fawe is doing so much, but they can't really help everybody. So it's our duty, as who they've already helped, to try and do something for our communities too. I recently found a girl at home. Yes, she had been married off. She was married off, and of course she was at home, but the husband was really, it was not a good life. By the way, when they marry you off and you really have nothing to offer, it's a bad life. Yes, so you find that they married her off in 2021, during COVID, and then the husband, I would say, got another woman within that very year. Yes, so sometimes you find she's telling you, Mercy, I haven't eaten, but you are a student. But during COVID, Fawe was helping us with some upkeep to help us do something. So I told her how to make the pancakes. She now makes them, and she can now sustain herself too. So every time I go back, she's like, Mercy, thank you. It's not like I did much, but at least I'm proud to say that another girl is standing because of me, and more are yet to stand. I have to go back and help someone else, and I'll keep helping as many as I can because I've been there. I know what it means to lose hope in the world, in everything around you.
My name is Shamim. I'm a doctor by profession. I'm a pediatrician working with Nakasero Hospital as the in-house pediatrician. I've been practicing as a pediatrician since the year started, so around 8 months. I graduated in May, official graduation, but I've been practicing as a doctor for the last 7 years. Fawe Uganda came into my life after my primary 7. I'm from Masaka, Luengo district, currently it's Luengo district. After finishing my primary 7, I performed well. I had 5 aggregates, yet I was coming from a school in the village there. So after finishing, I wanted to join these very nice schools, but my mother could not afford. So we tried to get avenues of how I can get a scholarship to go to a good school. So that's when I came to know about Fawe. One of our family friends saw Fawe in the newspapers that they sponsor needy but bright girls in school, secondary school. So he brought the newspaper to me. I got the box number. From there, I wrote an application letter, attached my recommendation, and then I sent them actually via post office because I had never been to Kampala at that time. So that's how I came to know about Fawe. I joined a school that my mother could afford that time, and I think it was second term of S1. They wrote to me back via my former primary school. So when they wrote the letter, I think it took like 4 months for me to get the letter until when the director had to go to the post office to pick it, and that's when I came to know that they had given me a scholarship like that. So When we got the letter, my mother traveled to Kampala, and that's when I got a scholarship. So they started sponsoring me from S2, senior 2, yes. So they sponsored me from senior 2. I joined Christ the King Secondary School. It's a girls' school in Rakai. That's where I was for 3 years until senior 4, still under Fawe scholarship. I performed very well. Actually, I was the best in Rakai that time. I had 9 in 8, and I wanted to be a doctor, and I wanted to join Nabisunsa Girls' School that time. But because I had the grades, and Fawe continued to sponsor me, so they actually got for me a place in Nabisunsa, and I joined Nabisunsa still under Fawe scholarship for 2 years. So Fawe sponsored me up to senior 6. After that, I did PCB math because I wanted to be a doctor, and I performed well. So I applied for medicine in Bara University. So I got a government sponsorship for my undergraduate studies. Coming from a polygamous family, it was really hard for our father to take care of all of us. So it just happened that entirely was not part of our education. So it was my mother. And my mother has only girls. We are 5 girls. And she did all she could to ensure that all the girls get decent education. However much she didn't have money, but she was very, very passionate. Since she was not able to go to school that much, you know, in those years, they could just get married at 15, at 13. They are already pregnant. So she didn't have a chance to get educated, but she really wanted her daughters to get educated. So she was very passionate. She wanted to see all of us achieving our dreams. So with Fawe, I was able to get the best, to go to the best schools, to get the best education, which I wouldn't have got if it was my mother. Yes. As a pediatrician now, as a person who has gotten the decent education, I've really impacted my family. Even start with, in my family, my sibling, the one who follows me, is now a pharmacist as well. And I was part of her journey. The moment I finished my first degree, I wanted to take care of my other siblings so that they also get decent education. So she finished, she's a pharmacist, and then the last born she also graduated this year in May. She graduated with me. She's an accountant. She did Bachelor of Commerce. So our family has benefited from my education. My mother is far much better than how she was. We are able to take care of her. She has a business. She has a decent home. She's able to grow her crops. She has a farm. So we are doing well as a family. But on top of that, I took it upon myself, together with my sister now, who is a pharmacist, to get people in our community to take care of. So actually, right now, there is a girl who is in 2nd year, is in Uganda Matters in Kozi, who we are paying for fees. I'm paying for fees. Then there is also another one in secondary school. He's now in senior 3 that I'm paying for. And then the last one is in P2 that I'm paying for. So that's part of my giving back to the community. If I hadn't gotten this opportunity from Fawe, I don't think my life would be the same. I don't think I would have been able to achieve all this, because I attended the best schools. I was able to get the good grades to do my dream course. Yes.
Yes, my name is Josephine Abalo, and the other name is Okwi Mrs. I'm married. I work for the Embassy of Ireland, Uganda, and I'm just 3 months old in the embassy. Previously, I worked for Straight Talk Foundation, and still managing the Embassy of Ireland Karamoja Bursary Scheme. By the time I left, there were 1,173 scholars, basically Karamojons, supporting quality access to education at post-primary and secondary level. So that is university and other tertiary. Prior to that, I had worked for Muvule Trust Foundation, and an organization that we started with Catherine Watson, the founder of Straight Talk Foundation. And I had worked for that organization for 15 years. At the end, we educated about 3,500 young Ugandans, and it was across the country, all the regions in Uganda. And at the end, too, I got opportunity to be awarded the best staff of the organization, a grant that enabled me studied in the best university in the world, University College London, at the Institute of Education. So I did a condensed master's degree, master's in education, health promotion and international development. My diploma was in orthopedic medicine and surgery. So I worked in Mulago Regional Hospital for about 3 months, managing pediatric clubfoot. And I felt it's still not my calling, so I re-enrolled back to the university and did community psychology from the Department of Mental Health and Psychology. And that's really helped me to enhance my capacity and competencies in managing the educational program that I've talked about. But still, I felt something is missing. Although it wasn't my calling, I still feel more, can I say, inclined into the medical field. So that's why I had to do a component of health promotion in my master's degree. So occasionally I help my husband in his clinic and I work on orthopedic cases, simple fractures, manipulation, yes. Fawe came in my life soon after completing senior 4. My mother, while I was in senior 3, declared that she was HIV positive. And by that time, 1998, 97, the antiretroviral drugs were very expensive. If I recalled, a bottle of about 30 tablets goes for about $1 million shillings. Yes, and so my mother couldn't afford, but with her faith, she lived on until I finished senior 6. Yes, and Fawe came in my life after senior 4. I'd passed highly, and I had no hope of getting back to secondary school. And my dream was to be a doctor, but also to be in a more settled environment, a boarding setting. And so during that holiday, my mother was approached by a friend who talked to her about Fawe Uganda, helping orphans and vulnerable children, and HIV/AIDS affected and infected families. So my mother approached them and she talked to them about me. Of course, my siblings, at that time we were 3 girls, and I'm the eldest girl. Yeah, so I was asked to apply, and of course I applied. By opening of term 1 for senior 5, I hadn't heard from them, so I went back to school. Luckily, I was always the top girl in school, and so the school called me back on the school bursary for term 1. So I must say that from senior 1 to senior 4, I think I paid school fees only twice, because every term I would be the best girl overall and take on the school bursary. So then I went back to the same school, that was Chitante Hill School, and I studied for 1 term. So by the end of term 1 of senior 5, we got feedback from Fawe Uganda that I've successfully been awarded the scholarship for my A-level. So basically Fawe funded my school fees for term 2 in senior 5 and term 3 of senior 6. Yes, and by the time I completed, so they got me off from Chitante Hill School to Gayaza, Our Lady of Good Counsel. Okay. Yeah, so at that time I remember we were pioneers of the A-level section for the Our Lady of Good Counsel Secondary School A-level section. And I remember towards the end of examination, my mother's condition deteriorated, and but the teachers kept it away from me. I managed to finish my exams, so when I came back home, she was already in Zambia hospital getting treatment, but basically palliative care and help to relieve pain and whatever she was going through. And she passed on, and I think that was around September, October. I don't remember the year. I don't even want to remember the years. So then, but she didn't die with us because her condition worsened and my grandmother had to come from the village and took her back home. So we remained in Kampala, me and my siblings remained in Kampala, and then we were called 5 days later that her mother has passed on. But we were told before she passed on, she kept calling all her names, myself, and say, I know you'll be able to take care of your sibling and promise you'll do that. So that was the call we were told. So I said to myself, wow, what a responsibility I've inherited. At that time, our youngest sister, there was a baby that came in the picture, and she was 2 years and a half. And she was also positive. Then in between there, I got, my results came back for senior 6. And I did quite fairly well, but not as expected. So I got admission to Makerere University on medicine, but on private. So I said to myself, I can't afford this. So a friend then advised and said, Mulago Paramedical Schools takes on students with this kind of grades on government, but you need to reapply. So I reapplied, and then I was called on government, and I took on the orthopedic course. I was happy to take it because it's still in my dream area. You never know I'll get there. So I took that course for 3 years while raising my siblings. Thanks be to God, my sibling didn't give me hard time. They were equally bright, so they were always the top best in their schools, and I didn't pay school fees. And then where we were staying, I remember the late Sempewa's family. I think Sempewa, the wife, was a sister to the late Muluana. And so they pulled out their vehicle from a garage and said, stay there with your siblings, don't pay fees as long as you can, feed them, clothe them, medicate them. And for me, that was another stepping stone. Yeah. So we lived in that garage in Kalere for about 10 years. Of course, I struggled with my sisters, but not really struggled, because Fawe again took me back in as a volunteer for a number of their projects. And that's where I gained a lot of experience in the NGO work. So I would study at the same time, volunteer with Fawe. So when they take me up country, I would ensure that the money I get as stipend or per diem, I stock up dry ration in the house. So we constantly had food. we had it all. And that's when I finished my Vibras. I remember my last practicals when I completed, it was amputation. I did it so well. I think the late, forgotten his name, Dumba, was my supervisor. He was the medical superintendent of Mulago Hospital. And he was quite impressed. So he recommended that I intern for the next 3 months in the hospital. And that's how I managed to work in the pediatric clubfoot area for 3 months. And then, but in between, I kept on saying, no, I need to work with a bigger community, young people. I need to interface with young people and talk to them, and they should know that what they're going through right now is not the end of the world. There are better things you can look out for, as long as you're determined. So I remember printing out about 10 copies of my CV, and I walked the whole of Muyenga area, Nakasero area, so that in the evening I was now walking back going to Chebando, and I stopped by Straight Talk Foundation. I walked in, I didn't know anybody, and then I was at the reception. I said, I would like to see the executive director. So the lady said, do you have an appointment? I said, no. And surprisingly, I don't know, by God's luck, a white lady comes moving swiftly and said, okay, what is your name? I said, my name, I'm from Fawe, Uganda. And said, come in and see me. So the lady was so shocked. So I walked in behind her, I ran upstairs after her. She's a quick walker, oh my God. I said, why is this one walking so fast? But that is her character. Fast speaker, fast walker, everything about her is fast. And I got to know that was Catherine Watson. I'm very grateful to that lady. And when I gave her my CV, she looked at me and I said, oh, I've hired you as my personal assistant. Oh my God, I broke down and cried.
Just like that?
Just like that. And then she got out money and said, go and stock up more dry ration for your sibling in the house. I said, God, what is this? And then she said, this is August 2005. I am going for summer holiday with my family in the UK, but come in at least 3 times a week and get to learn so that by the time I come, I'll assign you to another job. So I used to come in and work under a livelihood department, Tree Talk Plus. So I learned they provide tree seedlings, seeds to secondary school students, to plant trees around the schools as woodlots. I learned a lot in that area. So somehow my mind, like, your career aspiration, do you still want to continue in that or you want into environment? I said, no, I would actually discuss with myself all the time. No, I don't want. I need education or health. That's my area of interest. So when she returned in June 2006, she declared that she had won a grant, a $5 million grant from Lisbeth and Rousing, Peter, Lisbeth and Rousing. Now it's Trust, it's now known as Acadia. And she said, here's the money. I want an education program to be run. So at 23, I had to think of how to start up an NGO, how to run it, what are the requirements. So yes, but Fawe had already built my capacity in running projects. And that time I remember there were adverts sent out in the paper, which I participated in the designing, calling partners to implement the Mvule Trust grant. So from 2006 to 2009, we had partners running the project. So I would oversee all their work and comprehensively compile reports for the donor in the UK. And that is where I really got in touch with the people that I longed to talk to, the vulnerable Ugandans, the young girls and boys. Of course, I talk to them and say, you know what, there is someone behind this money that has donated, probably in a basket funding, and has reached you. So it's not an entitlement. You need to work hard to show that you deserve it. It's a yes and no. A yes because then the school where I was had offered to pay for my A-level. And my interest, and it was a day school, it's a day school. But my zeal was to be in a boarding setting, which Fawe enabled that to happen. Fawe Uganda made a huge change to many Ugandans, myself inclusive. And I must say that the bit of providing internship for young people, especially those in secondary school or university, it's a great opportunity. Please continue to do that, because when you look for jobs, they always say work experience for 2-5 years. But schools don't provide us experience. And so Fawe gave me that opportunity to have internship and gain that experience that is required for the employment world. So Fawe, thank you so much. Please continue doing the same for other young people who are on the program. We are there to support you in many ways. Yes. Thank you.
I'm so thankful to Fawe for the opportunity that they gave me, for having educated me, for having given me the best education any child would want to get. On top of the sponsorship, you mentored us. I was mentored, and I was able to get the course that I was yearning for. Have been able to impact my life, my family, and that of the community. Thank you so much, and congratulations upon this.
Fawe Uganda, Mastercard Foundation, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for the new life you've given us, to me most especially. Thank you for changing my life. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for taking me back to school.